Yes. Yes, we are back.
That's right.
Welcome on in. Off the bench. Presented by United Dairy Farmers.
You're so giggly.
I am.
You're so giggly.
Well, our next guest makes me giggle every once in a while, especially when I look at him. When I look at him, I just like to.
No.
When I look, well, no, it's not like that.
What does that mean?
It's not like. Let me introduce him. Can I introduce him?
Goodness.
Funny-looking
No,
guy.
that's not what I meant.
This
It's just-
funny-looking
When
guest.
I see,
Hey, welcome onto the show.
Yeah.
You're so funny looking,
Yes.
Paul. That's what I just heard
You're
from Elliot.
we now welcome on a very special guest, Paul Fritschner. Still don't know how to spell your last name. Paul, you are the co-host of the Sean Miller podcast. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing fantastic, Elliot. I mean, I guess I just called goofy looking. I was trying to get a
No.
haircut this week, but good Lord.
That's not what I was
So mean.
saying,
So
Paul.
mean.
That's not what I was saying, and everybody's going to take
That's
it the
what you
wrong
said.
way. Instigator Reed is to my left. He's getting the chat all
Instigator?
mad. Yeah, he's getting the chat all fired up, so now the chat hates us. And now we got Reed over here trolling Ohio State. Now he's trolling me. He's trolling everybody today, but that's okay. That's why we brought in the professional. Big League Paul is here to discuss Xavier Musketeers basketball. I'm very excited for this, Paul. I wrote my questions, so you're going to help me through it, but I think that I've got a lot of good information here. And if I get it wrong, we're going to start talking about something else. Is that okay with you?
Fine. All right, let's go.
Great. I think after the St. John's game, I think there was probably some fears as to where this season was heading for old Xavier. But 3 in a row now, 3 straight conference games. You're 4-4 in the conference. Number 7 Marquette on the road. It appears there's some life back into Xavier. What has been the biggest factor that has sparked this little run here?
Well, first of all, they're defending at a higher level right now. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw what they did the other day against Marquette. They held Marquette below 60 points at home for the first time since December of 2021, right? That's a really good Marquette team. I think the Marquette fans have been a little frustrated with their team lately, so that was kind of the hiccup that they'd been anticipating. We were talking about that going into the game, that could Xavier finally get over the hump in this one to put like an end to that Marquette run.
Yeah.
But look, Xavier's defending at a high level right now. You saw that against Villanova in the game on Tuesday last week. Eric Dixon, they did a great job against one of the best players in the country. Did a great job on Saturday against Cam Jones, another one of the best players in the country. That's 3 straight wins here. They look great against DePaul, and I know DePaul is DePaul, but look, they're a lot better than they have been in recent years. They're 200 spots better than they have been over the last couple of years. So it's at least a respectable DePaul team that you went up and beat by double digits in Chicago. That gives you some confidence because at some point, look, that St. John's game at Cintas a couple Tuesdays ago was ugly. There were different points in that game where they just didn't block out, they didn't rebound, they didn't look like they had any kind of effort and intensity. And Sean Miller called that out. He said, look, that's not the kind of team that we need to be. That's not how we can win games. Zach Freemantle talked on Saturday after the Marquette game about a players-only meeting that they had on Wednesday. And I know a lot of times in sports we talk about what do players-only meetings do? What are they any good? Are they beneficial? Whatever. But look, the way he outlined it, it seemed like it worked out pretty well because guys were able to talk about what things were and weren't and how they needed to win games. And to win a game in the 50s at Marquette says a lot about the potential of this team going forward because I'm not concerned about what they'll be able to do offensively. Ryan Conwell's had his worst 2 games of the season against Marquette, and they were still able – they probably should have beaten Marquette when they were at Cintas, but they didn't have Zach Freemantle, and they did beat Marquette at Marquette with Zach Freemantle. So to me now, if they can keep defending at this level, which I know it's a hard ask to ask them to do that every game, but if you can defend at or close to that level going forward, the offense will catch up and it'll be fine. And that's where I think the ceiling for Xavier can raise. It's just a question of now, can you win a couple of these games that matter here in the next 2 weeks?
Zach Freemantle, when he went down after the shootout, I did think it was over for Xavier. I thought there was no chance. They fought. I mean, they fought against UConn, forced overtime. They fought against Marquette. Arguably should have won the game if a tripping call is called late in that game. There's a solid roster there when Fremantle's not playing, but since his return, obviously he's averaging almost a double-double. He's been incredible. How much of this season do you think rests on Zach Fremantle's shoulders?
A lot. Look, a lot. I mean, and when he went out, they went a little different. If you went back to that UConn game that they played right after Freemantle got hurt, Xavier played much differently in that game, outside of just making shots. I mean, they were making some crazy shots. Dante Maddox, I mean, there were some circus shots that were going in that game. He played an out-of-his-mind game. But the way that Xavier attacked those two games was they kind of slowed down the pace a little bit, ran a lot of set plays. It was a different style than Xavier had played at different points this year. And they kind of at different times looked a little faster offensively once they actually got into the half court. Then you mix Zach Freemantle back in and you get back to what you were doing. And look, I was concerned for the Xavier season because they kept losing close games that they should have won. I mean, look, you're up by 7 in the shootout and you lose, and I know that's on the road. You're up by 6 against TCU. You're up against UConn. You're up against Marquette. You're up in all of these games and you can't win. Eventually, you're just going to run out of real estate with a chance to actually win games and get to the NCAA tournament. But 5 of their 7 losses this year are by 20 points or less. So they're right there. They've been on the cusp, and a lot of that now is going to ride on Zach Fremantle's shoulders, especially, look, tomorrow night against St. John's, they got punked on the glass. They got punked, and Xavier, who's their best rebounder? Zach Freemantle. You're going up against guys like R.J. Lewis, Zuby Ejiofor. I mean, guys that, Zuby's a massive human being in the middle of the paint. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this season's going to rest on how well Zach Freemantle plays, and not only how well he plays, Elliot, but does he stay healthy? Yeah. I mean, not only you, I think everybody thought that Zach Freemantle, when you got that news after the shootout, that he was done for the season. I mean, I think that was the fear, was that he was never going to play another minute for Xavier, and then all of a sudden he started to feel better, and they got him back out there, rehabbed him pretty quick, and they got him back out there, and that's been certainly a spark plug for them here now over the last couple of weeks.
Another guy I hear criticisms regarding Ryan Conwell, and I know you just mentioned him. I don't know why there's so much criticism on him. I don't know if fans were expecting him to be, the next Sule Boom, Quincy Oliveri. I don't know what the expectation was. He's averaging 16.5 points per game this season. Everything that I've seen, and I've watched, several Xavier games this year, I think he's played well. Where do you think the disconnect is? Why some fans are feeling frustration regarding to Ryan Conwell?
I think they're frustrated because look, World Series tournament, Super Bowl, Tetris league runner-up. I mean, could you have fit more in there? Could you have fit more in there?
We know how much you love Tetris, Paul. Look at that. He's got a framed Tetris piece behind him.
When you think Paul Fritschner, you think Tetris world champion. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, no. When you think about what Ryan Conwell had, true, good point. When you think about Ryan Conwell's season this year, I think a lot of people were expecting Ryan to come in and just make a massive difference. Maybe too much, I guess. Maybe too many expectations, looking back on it, were put on Ryan's shoulders. He had played at South Florida, he had played at Indiana State, and he played at a really high level, especially at Indiana State. I mean, they were one shot short of winning an NIT championship last year, lost to Seton Hall, and he performed really well. He played really well against Cincinnati, played really well against Seton Hall. He performed well against a higher level competition. But I think in games where Ryan has struggled, he's forced his shot a little bit, and I think you saw that the other day. In that game against Marquette, he was 0 for 8 from 3. He got a few shots blocked, including a couple of threes. And you could see it, especially the very first 3 that he took in the game. It was a set that they ran just for Ryan. It was a set coming across from the other side of the court, a couple of screens. Problem was Chase Ross beat the screens, was able to just block the shot, get a run-out layup. I think maybe he's telegraphed a few of those, and it's all learning experience. I don't have any concerns for Ryan. I think you saw that in the 30-plus point performance he had against Villanova. He's able to heat up. He's able to be a microwave scorer. The question is now, can he do that more consistently? Because they're going to need that. It can't all rest on Zach Freemantle. You're going to need guards to win you games from the perimeter. Xavier only made 2 threes in that game against Marquette. They didn't make a 3 in the last 27 and a half minutes of the game. Marcus Foster hit a 3 with 7.5 minutes to go in the first half. They didn't hit a 3 the rest of the way. Xavier's not a good 2-point shooting team, and they still won the game. So all of that together kind of speaks to it. I'm not worried about Ryan.
You mentioned the improved defense. I think 10 steals for Davion McKnight over his last 4 games. I think it's been a bigger emphasis. Obviously, you mentioned the team meeting. You mentioned all of it. St. John's scores 80 points a game. They're 16-3. I think their losses are a 1-point miracle loss to Baylor. You lose by 1. They lose by 1 to Creighton, Georgia at home. They've lost to 3 pretty good teams. Are they going to be able to stop? I guess that's the key. It's either rebounding and getting stops against St. John's, obviously. Are they going to be able to, though, tomorrow night?
I expect a much better game tomorrow night than what we saw at Centos 2 weeks ago. Because, 1, I think Xavier's playing better. And 2, when you get punked like that, especially in front of your home crowd, when you get punked like that, there's just something about it that as a team, as a competitor, you want to go out there, you want to put up a better performance, and you're playing in Madison Square Garden against one of the greatest coaches that this game has ever seen in Rick Pitino, and a team that, for my money, St. John's is the best team in the Big East right now. I know they haven't played the top end of the Big East, so that is probably still a little bit up for debate. You know, UConn and Marquette obviously have something to say about that. But as far as the metrics go, you look at what St. John's is able to do, and you look at the talent and athleticism that team has. They haven't played UConn yet. They haven't played Marquette yet. They've kind of bottom fed in the Big East as far as stacking their wins. But St. John's is really, really good. And if Xavier's able to go to St. John's and win that game tomorrow night, I mean, that really says a lot about the ceiling of Xavier being raised, because now you come back home against UConn on Saturday night. That place would be rocking. It will be anyway. But tomorrow night against St. John's, you got to rebound the ball. You have to rebound the ball better. You got to block out. You got to stop St. John's doing what they do, and that's scoring around the basket. St. John's one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. They don't shoot a lot they don't make a lot of threes. If you can hold St. John's off that three-point line, if they don't get hot tomorrow night, you're able to kind of stuff them up defensively. We'll see if Davon Smith, point guard, if he plays tomorrow night. He played the other day. Rick Pitino said maybe he was questionable for tomorrow. That might be gamesmanship. If he doesn't play, again, just another little feather in the cap for Xavier that maybe, there's a door open there. But this is their toughest remaining game on their schedule, Xavier's. It's going to be a huge test, brother.
Paulie, what's up, my man? I wasn't gonna let Elliot just I don't want to say belittle or make fun of you, but it was a tough start for bringing you on the show.
I stand by what I said. I didn't say anything bad.
Here's my question is, before last week, I don't think anybody really thought that the aspirations of getting to March, playing in the NCAA tournament for Xavier were very small. Then you rattle off a huge win against Villanova. You go to Marquette. You get that big win. How important is this week to having really any serious aspirations of playing in the NCAA tournament?
Well, it's huge. Look, every one of Xavier's Quad 1 games comes Super Bowl Sunday or earlier. And if Xavier wants to get to the NCAA tournament, then it's going to have to happen here in the next 2 weeks. They're going to have to win one of these games against St. John's tomorrow, UConn at home on Saturday, or Creighton next Wednesday. They have to win one of those. I would say probably have to win 2 of those, but you got to win at least one. You can't go 0-3 here in the next 2 weeks because you're just going to start to run out of opportunities. So you're going to have to win one of them. And look, I think the way that this season has turned around for Xavier, it's all about turning – I hate to just – one of the things that's really pissed me off with college basketball in the last year or two is that everything has just gotten – and it's kind of, I guess, similar to what's happened in baseball in the last couple of decades, but it's like everything's gotten boiled down to a spreadsheet, and especially in college basketball where you're picking teams to go to your postseason as opposed to baseball where at least in the end it's subjective, it's based on record. Here, and it's subjective, you're picking teams to go to your postseason and play for a championship. I get a little annoyed with everything just always boiling down to the numbers and the metrics and everything instead of just, hey, maybe this team can go out and win a few games here and you use a little bit of the eye test of who's playing well, who's not playing well. But that's why we do it. That's why we have the numbers. And right now, Xavier, it's all about turning expected losses into wins. Can you get to that 20-21 win mark in the regular season that'd be huge. We all know that when you get to conference tournament season, conference tournaments are great, but the committee doesn't care about them. Nobody wants to hear that, and nobody will ever tell you that, if from the committee side of it. But nobody cares about conference tournaments. That's from the committees and the selection committee's perspective. Year after year, they show us that you got to do your work before you get to your conference tournament. So for Xavier, where does that work happen? In the next 3 games. Those are your chances.
Paul, we just saw last night on college football the best team that money could buy win the national championship. They spent the most money. They won the national championship. NIL obviously is just changing the landscape of college athletics. We're seeing in college basketball, the bigger schools in the Big 10, in the Big 12, in the SEC, they obviously have bigger alumni bases. They have more money flowing through. Is it bleak for schools in the Big East going forward, this NIL collective? Because, Xavier has a smaller alumni base. They're a smaller school than all these schools. Is it bleak going forward?
I don't think it's bleak going forward necessarily, because we still don't know what's going to happen with all of the house settlement and all of this, litigation and revenue sharing and everything like that. There's too many unanswered questions right now that we have that for me to sit here and say, in January of 2025 that it's bleak. What I will tell you is that if you look at the SEC, they are having one of the best seasons in college basketball ever. I mean, that conference is historically good. You could make a case for all but maybe one team in the SEC. Now, that's not going to happen by the end of the season. They're probably going to end up with about 11 teams in. You're not going to get 16 teams into the tournament. But you could make a case for maybe 15 SEC teams right now, legitimately. And that's ridiculous. So why is that? It's because there are a lot of bigger schools with a lot of funding that have been able to put together rosters that can compete at a really high level. I don't necessarily – I do think that the Big East and the ACC have a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer here going forward, as far as what is their plan, what are they going to do, with a lot of these – decisions that they make after revenue sharing and all of that comes out. How does all of that get settled? But no, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's bleak necessarily, when there's still too much to be decided.
Paul, you've overcame an illness recently, and I wanted to show this picture because I think it's the best you've ever looked. Can you explain what was going on, your mindset during this one?
Okay, so that trash can right there.
Yeah.
I had thrown up into that trash can about 20 times in the last 18 hours leading into that picture. That banana, I don't think ever got eaten. I might have munched on it a little bit. That neck warmer saved my life. That was the most miserable I've ever been. That was terrible. Oh, it was so bad, fellas. I don't know if you guys have ever had that, but it was awful.
The Bucky
Wouldn't
Beaver
wish it on
sweatshirt
anybody.
kept you strong, though. The Bucky Beaver sweatshirt.
What's insulting? Casey, put that picture back up there. Casey, put the picture back up here real quick. Can you do that? It's like Bucky's just laughing at me. That's the most insulting thing about the picture, is that Bucky's just sitting there laughing at me while I feel terrible. Oh.
No, he's just trying to bring a smile on your face, get you through the hard times. That's what Bucky does.
I'm out of Xavier questions, and by the way, I've never been sick. I'm vaxxed, so I'm ready to roll. Golf league. We got a question. We got a question from Everett in the chat. He says, if Chatterbox had a golf league, would you join?
No, we wouldn't be able to get on. There'd be other leagues kicking us off.
Let me ask you this. I think I asked you this.
Yes, I would join. If you did have a golf league, I would join. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you this. Your car, when you worked here, you've since quit and moved on and quit. But when you did work here before you quit, what?
Oh, no, I didn't know what I did. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you quit.
Oh.
I was just making sure you knew. So before you quit, you had a car that we all loved here. It was a very old car. It's been since, unfortunately, been taken to a better place. I think it died at a Burger King, right?
It died at a Burger King. It died in a drive-through of a Burger King, and I felt really bad. The owner of the establishment was extremely pissed at me because I couldn't even jump it to put it in neutral to push it forward.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Casey's car. I don't know if you've known this. I don't know when the last time you talked to Casey. Casey has his car parked out in our old work lot that Paul, you remember it. It's been parked there since, I think, August. It has suffered every element that it could possibly have. The hurricane-like conditions, the snow. It's been sitting there rotting away. And my question to you, Paul, would be: if you were Casey after 6 months of it leaving in that parking lot, do you think you'd move your car?
Casey, are you riding a lawnmower to work every day, or what are you doing?
No. It's my wife's car, for one. It's my wife's car, and it was
so you're
already
just passing the buck here, Casey.
Someone needed to have
Blaming your
that
wife.
car. After Elliot got rid of his car, now it's my turn to carry that torch for us in this group, right? So the thing is, I tried to get it towed. I called. It cost like $500 to get it towed where I needed to go.
$500.
$500. I don't have that type of money. I don't have that sort of cash on me. So there's a couple different options here. We could go to U-Haul and get one of those dollies, put it on there, but that requires us to, get the truck, and then all of us guys have to go out there.
I think it'd be a fun little day.
It'd be a fun little day, all right.
What is going? So
Yeah, so it's
it's
just
died. What do you do? How are you getting to work? What's going on?
well, I'm
Carpool.
yeah, we kind of carpool.
His new car doesn't have power steering, Paul.
No, it does. It does.
Doesn't have power steering.
It does.
How long did you drive that car without power steering?
For about a month. Maybe longer.
Is it legal?
Probably not. I have no clue. Not a single clue.
You
but
just admitted to a felony on air.
Shucks.
Casey.
Dang. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I will get it figured out once the snow's all done melting off the car. We can get it out of there. Maybe I can actually get it out.
Sounds like our old boy Casey's got to hit a parlay here.
Yeah, I think. Well, he hasn't bet, Paul, either. He doesn't bet anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that or lunch, and I would rather have
Oh
lunch
man,
now.
did Fred drain you out, Casey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
It was tough. It was a tough year.
Well, Paul, I know you're a busy guy. So I'm going to let you go. But I want you to know you're missed here, Paul, and I wish you didn't quit, but unfortunately you did quit, so you don't work here anymore. But when you did work here, you were a very good guy. So hopefully you're still a good guy at working for the Xavier Musketeers.
Elliot, it was a beautiful day to see your dad last week, and
He said you came up. Now I want to tell a story about that. I was feeling under the weather that night. I just had Well, I was feeling under the weather. I was never sick. The vaccine stops that. But if I was feeling a little bit under the weather, and it was just we were all snowed in. And my dad's like, "Hey, I got tickets to the Xavier game. You guys anybody want to go?" I'm like, I'm not feeling the best right now. I probably shouldn't risk it. He failed to mention that they were courtside tickets.
he could have checked into the game.
Yeah, you can see pictures of him on the broadcast. He's just right there behind Coach Miller and Patino. So it's like he failed to mention that. So I'll blame my father on that. I would have sucked it up, and I would have gone to that game to see you, and I would have spread my illness to you. But I'm sad I didn't go. Next time he has courtside, I'm going to go.
We lost him.
We
Is he
lost him.
gone?
Oh, he's back.
Oh no,
He's
no,
back.
I'm here. I'm here.
He's back.
I'm here.
He's
I'm
back.
Here.
He's back. Thank God.
I'm here.
But that's
All
it.
right.
That's it. Any final? Kenner, you got a question?
I'm good.
Casey, you got another question?
Nah, I'm good. It's good seeing you, Paul.
Oh, actually, Paul, last one.
Oh my goodness.
This is just for clickbait.
What are we doing?
I want you to know, actually, that this is just a clickbait question. This is just going to be clipped up, and I'm going to tweet it out later, and it's going to make somebody look bad. You ready?
Okay.
If UC and Xavier played right now, who'd win the rematch?
Xavier.
Okay.
That's going to be a great clip.
Yeah, that was a bad clip.
That was going to be a great
I
clip.
thought he was
Do
going to have
you
some
want
sort
to
of.
expand on why? Do you want me to expand? I mean, UC can't
No,
score
it's
right
fine.
now. Xavier's defending at a pretty high level.
No, it's
Where's
fine.
the game being
No,
played? Is it down
no.
at Heritage Bank?
No, it's fine.
That clip's going to do numbers. The Xavier guy
I'm not
answered
clipping-
that
I'm not
Xavier's
clipping
going to win a rematch.
I'm not clipping it anymore. That's Paul Fritschner. You can catch him on, I think, like 6 different TV channels. He's on YouTube as well. He's co-host of the Sean Miller Pod. I think he runs the Bally Sports Network. Every time I'm at a bar, Paul is all over the
FanDuel
TV.
Sports Network.
Whatever it is, who cares? But Paul, thank you for coming on. I love you, Paul, and I'm glad you overcame your illness.
I'm glad you're back, Elliot. Talk soon.
Boosted.